Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I am Dr. Marcy Clark, and I would like to welcome you to another great early childhood professional development session at the University of Arizona Global Campus. We kindly request your attention for a brief moment. In the spirit of transparency and utmost respect for our community, we have some information we'd like you to read on the next disclaimer screen. By taking a few moments to read through the disclaimer, you empower yourself with pertinent information regarding the boundaries of our knowledge-sharing environment. Take a moment to read through this slide also. Then together, we'll embark upon these exciting sessions while we push boundaries and leave an indelible mark on the ever-evolving landscape of early childhood education knowledge. I'm excited to introduce to you Sammantha Boyle. Sammantha has a master's degree in educational leadership and has been working with small children for most of her life. After classroom teaching and school leadership, Sammantha is now working as a professional development trainer, coach, and consultant for early learning programs. Sammantha's philosophy surrounding leadership and education begins with empathy and how building relationships that help us understand others creates an immense impact. Leadership is a passion for her, and she has spent many years studying ways that leadership affects people of all ages and what makes good leaders so special. Sammantha, thank you so much for joining us. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you so much for having me again. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, I'm going to be talking about mindset and leadership and memory and how they're all interconnected. And yes, huge passion for me. I absolutely love leadership, but we'll get started and we'll kind of get there in a minute. So we're talking today about a mindset for memories, why memories are important for young children, and how as early educators, we can cultivate a culture of experiences that create lasting positive memories for our students, the families of our school, and our staff. And before we get started, I kind of want everybody to just think back to what that earliest memory that you have that associates with education, whether that's preschool, maybe that's working at home, maybe that is a kindergarten program, whatever that looks like for you. Kind of think about that earliest memory, think about the experience you experienced, think about how you felt, and maybe it is just a feeling, maybe it's not a full story. And I'm going to share a little bit about mine really quick. So the little human that you see in the picture having her JCPenney glamour shots done, that is me when I was 3. The picture next to that is my pre-kindergarten class photo, and you can see the very early 90s era floral dress and squeezable cheeks that my daughter has now inherited. And then the last picture is my kindergarten picture. And that's kind of what I want to talk about a little bit. When I went into kindergarten, I had just turned 5. I have summer birthday, and kindergarten is really the first place where I have memories of learning. Now, what I remember is running around my kindergarten classroom, in Mrs. Meyer's classroom, playing dress up while she played Can You Feel the Love Tonight from the classic Lion King. And I just remember feeling so safe, just this warm, welcoming, loving place. And I think that feeling, when I think about how I went into experiencing the rest of my educational career, that's the feeling I go back to. I felt safe. I felt special and loved. And that has a lot to do with how I then continued throughout my educational career. But for a second, we're going to talk a little bit about what memory is. Now, I find memory so fascinating, I could talk about it forever, so I'm going to try to not be super long-winded. So memory is the psychological process of acquiring, storing, retaining, and retrieving information. But I love how Psychology Today put it, that it is a record of experiences that guide future action. I love that because I think it really boils down to what memory does for us. We keep this record of what happened to us, and that record guides us in our future experiences, how we're going to react to things, how we're going to act in certain situations. So we have 6 types of memory. The first type is episodic. And this is the kind of memory that you think of when you typically are talking about, oh yeah, I remember we did that. We went there, I had this experience, and this is the story surrounding it. It's that typical memory. However, the cool thing about episodic memory is that it's highly subjective. So if you go to a concert with 10 friends, each one of you is going to have a completely different memory of that same event. The second type of memory is semantic memory. And this we talk about a lot in early childhood because this starts from the moment you're born. And semantic memory is how we build our worldview. These are things that are ingrained into our person or our culture. It's who we are and who we become. The procedural memory, this is learning how to do something. So procedural is learning how to ride a bike. It's learning how to read. I don't know if anybody's seen it, but there's this video going around right now that is an older gentleman whose coworker asks if he remembers how to skip. And as soon as they start into this video, it becomes very evident that he thinks he remembers how to skip, but that his body doesn't remember how to do it. And so that's procedural memory. He thinks he remembers how to do it, but his body doesn't catch up with his memory quite as fast. And it's kind of that like, once you know how to ride a bike, you can do it forever kind of memory. So working memory, I call this the mental sticky note. You write it down, you keep it for as long as you need it, and then you get rid of it. So working memory is probably my favorite because well, I won't say because it lets me down the most, but it does let me down the most. Working memory fails you when you're sitting, you get up, you are on a mission to go do something, but as soon as you walk out of a room, you completely forget what you were going to do. That's working memory. And often all you have to do is go back to the place where you started from and you'll remember. So to me, it's kind of like a sticky note. I'm going to write this down because I know that I need it. I'm going to get it done. And as soon as it's done, I can kind of let go of it. Sensory memory is so cool. Sensory memory is where when you touch or feel, when you smell something or taste something and it takes you back. Maybe you had a grandparent who smelled like a very specific kind of perfume or hard candy. And when you taste that hard candy or you smell that perfume, you instantly remember being at their house. That's sensory memory. And perspective memory. Perspective memory is kind of like when you see something on your phone and you're like, oh, I don't need this now, but I want to remember it for later. So you screenshot it. So you know that you have it. You can kind of file it away and pull it back when you need it. So what do we know about memories? Well, we know they have long-term impact. One of the reasons that we know this is because so much research has been done on the long-term impact of trauma. But this goes both ways. It doesn't just go for bad memories, it goes for positive memories as well. But we do talk about the long-term impact a lot when we're talking about trauma-enforced care and how to move past memories. We know that they impact how we form relationships. We know that they impact our self-worth, our confidence, the value that we hold about ourselves within ourselves. And we know that memories are linked with long-term academic success. We also know that everyone has memories. Again, that semantic memory starts from the time that we're born. So everyone is building those memories that are shaping who they are and who they're going to be. And 3, we know that people can create memories. So when you think back to that earliest memory in your academic career, who were the people in your memories? Who have you created memories with throughout the years? Are there people who show up in your memories a lot? People who show up in really important memories, but not very often. But we know that many memories, especially episodic memory, are centered around people. So how can we, as teachers and early childhood professionals, create impactful memories, right? We want that long-term impact, but we want it in a positive way. We want the positive relationship building, the positive self-worth, and the positive long-term academic success. So positive memories are easily created within programs that are safe, loving, creative, and fun. And fun is the one that I think gets left out sometimes. But our programs, we want the kids to come in. We want them to have fun. So I want you guys to keep this mindset for the rest of this presentation, that we are going to be the ones in our earliest childhood memories, in our students' earliest childhood memories. So one day, when my 3-year-old is 13, when she's 23, when she's 33, and she looks back, she is going to see Miss Laura in her earliest memories. She's going to see Miss Nicole in her earliest memories. And I want to know that those memories are going to be great and that they're going to set her up for long-term success. And this is really heavy. It's a huge responsibility as an early childhood professional to go, I am the one that in 30 years, this child is going to see when they think back. But it's also an incredible opportunity for us to help shape the life of a small person and send them in the right direction. So who do you want your students to remember? What do you want them to remember? And then how do you want them to remember feeling? And if you remember when I was talking about my earliest memories in Mrs. Meyer's kindergarten class, more than anything, what I remember is the feeling in that classroom and knowing that I was excited to go to school every day because I felt safe and loved and it was fun. And so that's really where I want us to head with this. So we want them to be feeling safe, love, and fun. So we can also create incredible memories through play. Now, play is the ultimate learning tool for preschoolers. I'm a huge experiential education advocate. I don't care what age you are. I think being able to experience the world around you is the best way for anyone to learn. It inspires curiosity. It teaches a growth mindset. There are so many amazing things that have to do with experiential learning, but for preschoolers, play is essential. So experiencing the world that's around them on their terms, but with guidance from teachers or early childhood professionals, that's going to open up a world of creativity and fun and curiosity. And I'm going to say one little extra thing here, because I want all of you to hear this and know if you are having fun, they are going to have fun. So bring what you love to the classroom. If you love art, bring art to your classroom. If you love science, that's mine. I'm a science girl. When I'm teaching in a classroom, I go wild with STEM and science experiments and all kinds of stuff. And I have a great time. And because I am having fun, the kids in my class have fun. Learning and fun are not separate. They're together. And that is what makes, I think, what makes early childhood so fantastic is that the kids think anything is cool as long as you think it's cool. But let's be real for a second. Not every single day is going to be sunshine and rainbows. So here is an example. I'm pretty sure I took this from like a real day in my life. That life is hard, teaching is hard. How can you expect me to be fun all the time? I haven't had my coffee yet. My 2-year-old woke up screaming in the middle of the night 7 times and kicked me in the shins. I'm bloated and I just generally don't want to be around anyone. And we all have days like that. Everyone has days like that. The kids are students. They have days like that too. So how can we be in the right mindset when our mindset is blown up? We want to talk about smaller bits of mindsets. So you don't have to be for everyone every single day. So if you're in a classroom that day, think about how your mindset between you and your students can be great. And make that, I have to be wonderful for everyone, just a little bit smaller. How can I be there for my students today? Let's talk about a leadership mindset. Maybe you are a assistant director, a director, an owner, maybe you're a principal or assistant principal. How can your mindset be right from you to your team? Maybe you're having a great day. Maybe you're ready for more. Let's talk about how you can have a school mindset from the leadership and the staff to the students. How can leadership help the staff to help the students? And let's talk about a community mindset. How can we have a mindset of bringing those fantastic memories to the community at large, from leadership to staff to families, leadership and staff to families? I want to talk about trickle-down mindset. So mindset begins with the leadership. When leadership comes in, they need to have a clear vision of what that school looks like to them. But the key thing about that leadership's vision is that you want to make sure that you can communicate that effectively with your staff, with your teachers, so that they accept that same vision as their own. There has to be buy-in from the team. We're going to talk about ways to do that in a minute. But once that is accepted, that vision is accepted by the members of the team, that vision then becomes a mindset. You're thinking, what's guiding my mindset every day? And once that mindset becomes ingrained into the everyday and it's no longer something you have to try to do or work to do, that's when it becomes school culture. And culture is, I think, such an exciting thing, because we've all walked into a place that immediately you can feel like a tension in. But we've also all walked into a place where immediately when you walk in, you're like, I can breathe again. And there's a huge difference. That is a physical manifestation of what the culture of that place feels like. And when we're talking about a preschool or an early education center, when your parents walk in, your prospective parents, you want them to feel that the culture there is safe, loving, creative, and fun. You want them to know that not only are your kids going to be in the same condition you brought them in at the end of the day, but that they're also going to have a great time and want to come back. Mindset starts with leadership. The vision becomes the mindset, becomes the culture. If you guys get nothing else from this whole entire presentation, which I hope you do, but if you don't, this is what I want you to remember, that leadership is a mindset. Leadership is not some list of traits that you're either born with or you're not. Leadership is not a set traits on a list that some guru gave someone one time. It's not something you're going to find in a book, because the truth is, when we talk about leadership, every single person is going to tell you something different. So leadership, it's a mindset. Put yourself in the mindset that I am a leader, and then we can talk about how to be an effective leader. Again, every single person is going to tell you something different about leadership. No two lists of leadership traits are going to look the same. But effective leadership is absolutely integral to school culture. But then we have to ask, what is effective leadership? Well, okay, take a look at these three images that I put on here. There are a lot of words that you hear associated with effective leadership or good leadership a lot. You have words like organize and mentor, strategy, manage, not a word I like very much, teamwork, motivate, inspire, develop, decisions, communication. But something here is missing. Something here that could bring all of this together to make all of this less effort is missing. So we have to take a step back and say, okay, what is effective leadership? What does it require? What do we want to see from our leaders? And what can we offer? Now, I think we can all share the experience of having worked in a place where effective leadership is not happening. It feels awful. It's a terrible place to be. So think about what was happening in that situation that was leaving you to feel like leadership was not effective. What could they have done differently? Maybe you had the opportunity to work for someone where the leadership was amazing, where every day when you walked in, you were stoked to be there. You felt fabulous. And you were like, if I could work for this person forever, I absolutely will. What did they do? And what do you want to do when you're talking about your mindset of leadership? Where do you want your mindset to be focused? What I think that we are missing from all of this is empathy. So how can we have a mindset of leadership through empathy with our staff? So if you're in a leadership position in a school, if you're a director, an assistant director, an owner, a principal, assistant principal, how can you ensure that your staff feel like individuals? Well, first you have to see them as individuals, right? And that can be really hard when you are running a school. It can often be a thing that gets overlooked, but this is really important to make sure that you know your staff as individuals. How do they learn best? Or just how do they like learning? Do they like online self-paced courses? Do they like going to conferences? What makes them feel appreciated? What makes them feel encouraged? If you have somebody who is going above and beyond all the time, it is important to take the time to show them that that matters. Because when we don't, it's really easy to make people feel undervalued. And that leads to discontent, which is not great. I think in this field, we have enough turnover. We want to try to keep the great teachers that we have. One really easy way to do that is by making them feel valued and appreciated. So is that, somebody's going above and beyond, they've done way more than you asked them to do. Is a Starbucks gift card going to make them feel valued? I don't know. Is it just taking the time to pull them aside and say, hey, I just want to thank you so much for always being somebody that I can depend on. You are one of the backbones of this program. And I just want you to know, I appreciate you so much. Sometimes that's all it takes, but you have to know them as an individual to know what you can do to make them feel valued. The second piece of this is get to know your staff outside of the school walls. Get to know what their family is like. What are their hopes, their dreams, their goals? Is Jenny working on her master's degree right now? Is that what's really important to her? Knowing what matters most is incredibly important. Maybe Jenny comes in one day and she is just looking so run down. She is not herself. Maybe giving her the space to say like, hey, Jenny, we have so-and-so who can come in and be in that room for you today. Do you just want to take some time to rest? I know you've been working really hard here. You've been working really hard on that master's degree. I'm really proud of you, but I also don't want to see you burn out. Maybe that's a way that you can make her feel appreciated and encouraged and set her goals and what matters most to her out as being important to you as well. Maybe their family is really important. Well, if that's the case, when their kid gets character counts at school, make the space for them to be able to go to the character counts. There are so many ways to do this. Those are just a couple ideas. And involvement. Involve your staff in the decisions of your school. This is where we were talking about getting the buy-in to that vision. So often leadership makes decisions and doesn't get input or involvement from any of the staff. Well, they're a huge part of why the school runs. They're a huge part of how the school operates every day. You want them to have ownership in that too. So involve them. Be transparent with them. Now I know that there are going to be policies where that's not possible 100% of the time, but as much as possible, be transparent with your staff. Ask their opinions on things. Have joint reflection and analysis. Hey, in our mid-year staff meeting, we want to talk about, these 3 events that we did the first half of the year. Were they working? Did they not work? What could we do differently? Get ideas from them. Give that shared vision, give them some responsibility in that shared vision. How do they feel about it? Can we grow it? Can we change it? How can we make this school better as a staff? So let's talk about a little bit of empathy in the classroom, right? So we were talking about, more from a leadership standpoint in like school leadership. Let's talk about it from a leadership standpoint in the classroom. So how can you put empathy at the core of your classroom leadership? It's pretty much the same way that you would do it with an adult, with a child, right? I think often we forget that kids are people too. They're gonna have bad days. They're gonna have days where they come in and they're tired, they're exhausted. They're gonna come in and they have these big feelings, or, they're just going to have a breakdown. And as adults, we have those days too, but a lot of times I feel that with kids, they get a little bit less grace than we do as adults, which I'm pretty sure it should be the other way around. We've had 30 years of practice. They are 5, and so let's think about the kids in our classroom like individuals in the same way that we would think about it with an adult. How do they learn? How do they like to learn? And how can you change what you're doing in your classroom to motivate them to be excited about learning? How can you make it fun for them? Maybe they love sensory. Okay, so make everything a sensory experience. How can you bring a sensory component into everything that this kid is doing in your classroom? How do they feel appreciated or encouraged? This is so huge with kids. When you're talking about these, 2 through 5-year-olds, especially, we are building confidence in these students in our classrooms. It is a huge part of what we do, but we also have the power to break that confidence down. Now, I'm going to share a little bit of a personal story here. My son had a really hard 3-year-old year. And I found that when he moved to that 4-year-old class, his confidence was just shot. It was just broken, where he thought, he was a bad kid. He couldn't do the right thing. He couldn't make those right decisions. It's a really hard place to be as a parent. It's a really hard place to be as a teacher too, to receive a student who's been in a situation like that. So how can we work to build that confidence and that self-value by learning how these students are appreciated and encouraged, and then really pushing that, right? We want them to move on from our schools being these confident, excited kids with just this love of learning. And this is a fabulous way to do that. How can you make that kid feel special every day? Just take the time to stop, listen to the crazy story, let them tell you about the book that they wrote in circle or after circle time. Where can you take that little bit of extra time that is going to have big impact? Excuse me. What makes them feel undervalued, right? What makes a student feel sad or, broken down? A lot of times kids will use you broke my heart instead of I just feel sad. No, it's you broke my heart. Well, what makes them feel that way? Take the time to kind of log that away, remember that so that we don't do that again. And we have the opportunity with these kids to boost a growth mindset with them, right? We want to make sure that they learn that failure is okay and that it's just one step on the road to learning, one step on the road to getting better at something. So taking the time to walk them through things, to push them gently over, maybe where they would go on their own, but up to that next level. Those things are really important. You don't want to push too hard. And that's part of bringing empathy into it, is seeing how that student is feeling, but you do want them to experience that success that comes after that failure. Now, how can we use empathy from a classroom management standpoint? This one's really big. When we think about classroom management, there are so many different management styles. Maybe you are a clip chart teacher. Maybe you are a 1, 2, 3 magic teacher. There's so many different ways to do this, right? But I think at the core of this particular point that I want to make is, if something you're doing in your classroom management isn't working for a child, have the understanding to say, okay, Teddy, we're going to take your clip chart off because I can tell it's just stressing you out. And I don't want you to be focused on this all day. Or if you have a student who, because of the clip chart, they're thinking they're bad, or they only make bad decisions because maybe they only clip down and they never clip up, just take that component away and find something that does work for them. And with classroom rules, this is an easy one because you can just let the kids come up with the classroom rules. Give them some ownership over what they're doing in their classroom, right? We teach empathy with classroom rules so much. We're talking about sharing hands. We can talk about, Johnny, how did it feel when Bruce took the toy from you? How did it make you feel? Sad. Yeah, Bruce, how do you feel? Do you feel sad? Yeah, I think you guys both feel sad. And then talking about teaching empathy through the classroom roles with the kids. It's something that they can be involved in. When they talk about, oh, we share toys. Awesome, we use sharing hands, or we don't hit. Oh, we use kind hands. All of that is stuff that we do in our classrooms already, and it's an amazing opportunity to take our empathy to the next level, but also to teach it to our students. But above all else, when we're talking about empathy with any human, adult, child, doesn't matter. It's considering the individual. Because really that's what empathy is being able to say, I see you and I understand you beyond maybe how I would feel, but I understand that you are feeling this way, and I want to do everything I can to make you feel wonderful. So how are leadership and memory linked? We've talked about these two things. How do they come together? Effective leadership that is led with empathy works to create a vision of a program that, or programs that value culture, and a culture of memory making, of good memory making, of fabulous memory making. And by creating schools that are full of playful, loving, creative classrooms, we can ensure that the early memories of our students are all filled with fun, love, creativity, and that ensures that their lives and their academic careers are set on a track to achieve social emotional awareness, confidence, and success. Because that is really what it's all about. It is our job as early educators to take these tiny humans and set them on the track to be successful adults, set them on a track to be successful kindergartners and first graders and second graders. And I think we often forget that the impact that we have when they are 1, 2, 3, 4, that impact is what sets them forward for the rest of their academic career. I knew an educator who used to say that preschool determined college success. And there's a lot of truth to that. If we can teach these core skills, if we can create memories that lead to those positive long-term effects, then we are going to create children who can be successful, confident adults. Thank you so much for having me. It was really exciting to be here. Here is my contact information. I would love if you guys would stay in touch. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me anytime.
Sammantha, thank you so much for a wonderful topic, and thank you for joining us for today's Early Childhood Professional Development series at the University of Arizona Global Campus. Until next time.